Hi, hello everyone. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about ER diagram only, but from a different way of designing it. Now, this class diagram way I learned simply from a file called EDMX, which is a entity relation markup model, something like that. This comes with entity framework 6.0 and below that. So I used to use those things, and they were a very helpful way to visualize your database in your code directly. But they look, instead of the diagram that we created before, that which was a traditional AR diagram, this uses the class notations. So in that way, it's kind of very simple, to be honest. We will take the same example that we two examples that we took last time. Okay, let's say you have a student. Okay, that's a weird kind of looking box. Let's say you have a student. So this is how it will look. There'll be a block for the entity. It'll be student. Then there'll be ID underscore. Sorry, not underscore, but underlined ID. That's the primary key or the key. Let's say of any kind. There'll be properties. There'd be phone, something like that, and there'll be related things to it. But this is not your objects of class, but the database, right? EDMX are created through either database first, okay, or code first models. Now the idea is, when you do database first, you give your server details and it fetches the data and it creates the EDMX. For the code first, it will take the models that you have created and then it will create the EDMX. Okay, now in this, it was very good to work with EDMX, because you could have changed, you could have generated the all the model classes that you need through the EDMX. You could have generated the whole database as well through the model classes. But I think right now it all happens through the migration scripts that we have. But again, this was a fun way of doing it, and it was easier to draw instead of the previous way that you do, right? But obviously, this is not a standardized way. This is something that you can use for understanding quickly or working with a friend or something like that, right? There are no relations in between here. So all you have to do is make a course, another entity called, let's say it is course. Okay, and the course has ID underlined, it has name and some other fields maybe. Now, what how these two reference is the in the relationship space is simply that we will have a course array over here, and we will have this thing, what do you call it, a student array over here. All right, or rather, that's how it will look over here. But obviously, in the code wise speaking, right, if you talk about code, it will be always a student class, there'll be a course class, and there'll be a student course or some student underscore course, anything that the generation names it, right? And the relation will simply look like this, a single line going here from here. Now for many to many, it will simply be m and m, that's all. Or rather than this, it could also be sometimes a dot over here which represents 1, and a kind of this kind of thing over here, crow's foot, which represents m. So in this case it would be simply like this, right? Now if we take that other example that we had yesterday, it would be simply I think it was classrooms or classes, let's say classroom ID, name, class teacher ID, etc. And we will have something, let's say I'll just make it over here, called school. There'll be only one school, obviously, again the same things, ID, name, address, blah blah blah, etc. And if we talk about relation, it will simply be this. Now here we'll have a dot representing 1, and here we'll have something like this representing many. It will have a school ID which will represent the relation between them, right? And this will have the list of classrooms which will represent the relation with this, right? And that's how EDMX works. EDMX care does not care at all about attributes, right? Because it uses these things, properties, right? There's no way of knowing other than the key attributes, any other detail. The id will be given like this, or it can be given like this with a not rk actually pk, with a bracket with the details of what kind of key it is, u for unique, something like that, right? But on the other hand, the other attributes like say name or phone, which will be a multi-valued attribute, it will just be like that, a string, a list. It could be a list if it's multi-valued of string, right? It could be a list of string. That's all. The phone number would that's the phone number. The address would be could be just another class with the different details that you have, like street or pin code or state, etc. Okay, that's how this way of showing you your diagrams would work. Now obviously these are not standardized. Okay, these are not standardized, these are not used in your day-to-day life or anything like that. These are good for your presentations, your discussions, your friendly things, but for an official, very official documentation with a dba or something, people would not use this. For a very good documentation, proper documentation, they would use the standardized way with uh, with the attributes and everything like that. So what we are going to do later next is we are going to create these kind of diagrams. For we will take problems, we'll take scenarios, and we'll create diagrams of these kind, which will help us to understand how the diagram or the database would be designed, how it should be designed. And we will do normalization if needed. We will understand how it's supposed to be done, which entity is weak, which is strong, which key is going to pass where, which should be unique, which kind of relation they should have in between, and everything that we can to understand these things. Now the idea is that if you have, that was the video today. If you have any questions, queries, problems, if you want me to cover any specific problem that you have of designing some specific kind of database, even with sharding or sharding, okay, sharding and backups are like an architectural thing, they won't come in the database design, but it's good to understand them when you're designing a database. It's good to know about them when you're designing a database. We might be able to look at that later, but first let's let's some let's design some good databases. All right, thank you for your time and hope you are good.